Welcome to Direct Horizon. Today's topic, the best ways to find podcast hosting. For anyone who wants to begin creating a podcast hosting is the most important part. Before anyone can begin distributing a podcast, they need a place to store the files and keep the feed file that will tell their subscribers about the new episodes available. Domain hosting for podcast. The first thing required is a domain name where the site will be located. Many domain registrars are available who will help one register a domain name for a small fee. Once the domain is registered, hosting is required. And again, there are many different companies willing to do the hosting for a small fee. One of those is Bluehost.com, but many others are available. When looking for a host, the most important thing is to make sure that a lot of bandwidth and storage space is available and cheap. Since podcasting deals with large media files, a lot of disk space will be taken up storing the files, and bandwidth will be eaten quickly when they're downloaded by the subscribers. Setting up podcasting site. After podcast hosting has been acquired, it needs to be used and the site needs to be set up. The DNS addresses of the site need to be set to the addresses that the host provides you so that the servers that underlie the internet will know where your site is. DNS addresses can be set by going to the domain register that was used to acquire the domain and inputting the addresses provided by the host. After that is done, it will take a few days before the master list and the domain registrar updates will be shared throughout the internet, and all name servers know where to find your specific domain. You can then go about setting up your own podcast. Using the podcast hosting you have now, you will need to look at the disk space allotted to the site using something called the FTP browser. The host may provide one as part of their hosting plan, but if not, there are many available free to choose from. Using the FTP browser, log on to the host and upload a file called dircaster.php after editing it to fit the specifics of the site. Dircaster.php is an easy-to-find piece of coding that generates a feed file by looking at the contents of its directory or folder. The individual episodes to be podcasted can then be uploaded to the same folder as dircaster.php for cataloging. Make sure that all the metadata or information about the MP3 file is correct before doing so. The podcast hosting you now have will allow you to distribute a podcast. It would be best to upload more to the site, such as an index page that tells visitors about the podcast and provides the address of the file dircaster.php on your site. When they subscribe to that file, the podcast client they use will access it and receive information about the latest podcasts available. For more information on topics like this, go to www.directhorizon.com.